has been wasted. Committees that have been reviewing legislation from things wide-ranging as auto insurance rates to the Aggregate Resources Act have now seen the hours of work that they've put in all wasted, thrown down the drain. All of these efforts, including the Thunder Bay MPP Bill Morrow's Ontario Would First Act, will have to start over from the beginning, if in fact they are reintroduced as a result of this decision. 1 year ago, people across Ontario elected 107 MPPs to Queen's Park to work together to make important decisions about the direction of the province. At that time, they did not give Dalton McGuinty a mandate to force his vision on the province of Ontario. By electing a minority government, they sent a very clear message that they wanted MPPs to find a common ground and work through the economic crisis this province is facing, and to work through it together. The individual who was least willing to listen to that message was Dalton McGuinty. For months he stalled with not only forming committees, but he insisted that he get a majority on these fundamentally important democratic tools that the electorate did not give him. This led to a needless gridlock of the legislative agenda. Bills that passed second reading and were sent to committee were idle for months as a result of his stubbornness of a partisan premier who refused to respect the democratic will of the people of Ontario. He refused to listen to their democratically elected voices when we voted to take the HST off home heating, installing it needlessly for months before he killed it altogether with the prorogation. He refused to respect the will of the majority of those elected to Queen's Park and create a legislative committee on Northern Ontario issues. He attempted to circumvent democracy by convincing an opposition MPP to retire with a plum posting to the head of WSIB, and by timing the dissolution of the committees with the date of that by-election, which he expected he would have a majority afterwards. This ploy failed, and when he attempted to use teachers as a scapegoat for his own poor spending record and subverted their democratic rights while forcing them back to the work in the midst of negotiations. But despite the Premier's misgivings, it's important to note that the legislature has at times worked. Despite what the Liberals will tell you, we have often worked together. All parties have joined together to pass anti-bullying legislation, while members of the NDP and the Progressive Conservatives successfully moved a bill to give the people of this province a single place to call before they dig, which included an amendment I moved to ensure that one of the call centres is placed in Northern Ontario. The NDP has even successfully negotiated with the Liberals the passage of the budget, among many other pieces of legislation. The truth is, when we put aside our partisan differences and commit to working together, things can be accomplished. The problem is that we've been stuck with a person in the Premier's office who has no interests other than those that are partisan. It's mind-boggling to think that a government that has been willing to spend more than $1 billion saving 4 Liberal ridings is completely unwilling to give hard-working families a break on their home heating bill by removing the tax it imposed that drove up the bills on an essential service in the worst economic crisis our province and world has faced in decades. It's shocking to think that the province would nickel and dime public safety by making cuts to the Bearwise program and leaving helpless individuals at risk when they threw millions of dollars out the window for the ill-conceived Orange Ambulance program. But this is the reality that we live in today. In Ontario, we're supposed to live in a democracy. We elected a government who's held accountable by opposition parties, and we should elect a government that does that through legislative tools such as debate, question period, and legislative committees, among other things. Those accountability measures were drastically reduced when Dalton McGuinty locked out MPPs from doing the job that they're paid to do. But what's worse is democracy was severely compromised by a politician who was once again faced with the choice of helping the people of Ontario and the Liberal Party of Ontario, and who once again chose to help the Liberals. McGuinty's decision to prorogue or lock MPPs out wasn't because Queen's Park wasn't functioning. It was because it was functioning too effectively. After years of being able to use his majority to sweep scandals under the rug, the Premier was no longer able to do that. He had to function in a democracy, where the majority rules and where he had to respect the wishes of the majority, and he simply was not able to do that. And that's why I'm legislature is not Dalton McGuinty's toy to use as he sees fit for the benefit of himself and his Liberal counterparts. Queen's Park is owned by the people. It's the people's government, the people's legislature, and we as MPPs are the people's voices. With democracy being dealt a severe blow by this decision, we need to hear those voices. We need to hear from each and every person, and we need to hear them say that the decision to lock MPPs out is unacceptable. We need to say to McGuinty and his Liberal counterparts that we're taking Queen's Park back, that we're taking democracy back, and that we demand to be heard. Those who think that their voices will not make a difference are wrong. Those who are cynical and don't believe that anything can be done are wrong. The Liberal government has shown time and time again that it is only interested in protecting its future result at the polls. But if enough people speak up and if they say, that's a line you can't cross, mark my words, they will listen. So that's why I'm here in Thunder Bay today to launch our Get MPPs Back to Work campaign, and I urge everyone to get involved. Let your voice be heard. Say to McGuinty and this government that in tough times we need action, and action can't be taken with chains across the door